Hi, I'm Lucy Handley. I do adult programs at the Ridgefield Library, and tonight I am happy to introduce the curator and moderator of this poetry series, Barb Jennis, Poet Laureate Emerita of Ridgefield, who has published two chapbooks. Welcome, Barb.
Oh, thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Ridgefield Library, for always hosting us so wonderfully. It's raining where we are. If it's raining where you are, you're in the right place, indoors, listening to poetry. And it's a good time to listen to poetry anyway, considering all that's going on in our world. So welcome. We have five wonderful poets here for you this evening. I just want to do a little tease for our April reading as well. Of course, it's National Poetry Month, so we've invited back a couple of favorite poets from past readings. We'll have Margaret Gibson, the Poet Laureate Emerita of the state of Connecticut. We'll have Ben Grossberg from West Hartford, Penelope Pelizan, Scott Fry, and another favorite, Charles Rafferty. So they'll be with us in April. I forget the exact date, but you'll be receiving if you're on our mailing list. I also want to tell everybody again, as I always do, that if you're interested in being a participant in reading at a future episode, just email me. You can see my name on the screen, barbjennis@gmail.com. We'll get you in our roster, and I'll be in touch for when an opening comes up on the schedule. So, and we do try to balance between very experienced poets and, kind of new to the profession or even to the avocation. So it's always fun to have a nice mixture of skill levels and genders and ages. Oh, yeah. So anyway, welcome again. I will start us off with our first poet. What I'll do is I'll read a short biography, and then I'll post a longer biography in the chat. So if you're interested in the names of the publications, if you miss them because I read so fast, or if you want more information about the poet, please check the chat. So, okay, so first this evening, we have Donna Disch. Donna is Westport's newly appointed Poet Laureate. Donna's mission is to heighten the awareness, pleasure, and appreciation of poetry. She'll be presenting seminars at the Westport Library, already has done a wonderful one on Robert Frost, writing and reading poems at public events, and planning and participating in activities to celebrate National Poetry Month. So, welcome, Donna.
Thank you. And good evening to everyone, and thank you, Ridgefield Library again, and Lucy Hadley and Barb for all the organizing. I am going to read poems that are basically light tonight in lieu of the atmosphere we're all living in.
Plays video.
Okay, who's Sherry? What happened?
Gosh.
What happened?
There's no, oh, Donna, hi, love. There's no video. What do I press? I can hear you, though.
Okay.
That's
Barb,
okay.
help.
Okay, sorry.
How did that happen?
Go ahead, Donna. You're fine now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I've written many animal poems because they speak to me in spite of the fact that they lack speech. To my mind, we are them and they are us. So I'll start by reading 6 animal poems, beginning with Do Tell, which is a poem about the life of honeybees. In this poem, I am mostly conveying facts, and yet these facts alone produced what I call a sort of organic, ready-made poem. Do Tell. Fully equipped on the first day of a brief life, a newborn bee toddles about the brood cells, nibbling the hive's golden loaves and fishes. By evening, that honeymoon forever over. With nubile mandibles, the young bee discards debris from the nursery cells. By day 5, she feeds larvae, royal jelly oozing from her head. When the jelly ceases, her wax glands weep. Now her hat, that of a mason, inspecting and mending the hive's hexagons. None of her chores taught or learned, but hardwired in her sesame seed sized brain, an allotted life of rigid rules, no sex, no language, no faith, but fragrant, vibrant memories of distances and time. Out of the hive, the 3-week-old bee flies. By dusk, her nectar crop and pollen pouches swollen, her little bee poem already half written. A bucket brigade commences, nectar spurted from mouth to mouth to mouth. Each bee's oral enzyme quickening the nectar into the honey they siphon into cells, fan, and seal. Directions and distances of the nectar mecca relayed in waggles and circles. With delicate, steely wings, the sisters fulfill their mission. Even Sherlock Holmes, who fancied bees, could not crack the industry of these artisans and chemists. Honey stashed in Tut's tomb, edible millennia later. No bee better than the next bee. And surely not the hostage queen selected at random by the virgin workers and fattened for weeks with royal jelly. Should the colony by accident rear 2 queens, they battle to the death for the mantle of non-stop egg layer and mid-air copulator with a host of dispensable drones. The surviving queen mates insatiably, heisting each drone sperm bank, housing each theft in her spermatheca. Throughout her reign, she will lay and fertilize thousands of eggs. When the queen wearies and flags, her loyal maids smother her, a young queen crowned. By week 6, our sample bee expires in clover or gravel or neither. Autumn arrives, their silos sound, the hive hums, winter comes, and we summer our tea with their wares. Next poem is Lucky Ducks. Down the road from my house, there's an old farmhouse and barn and a pond, and I drive by there almost every day. And most days, there's a flock of mallards minding the pond, utterly content and removed from our storm and drang, our storms and stresses. And every day, I have to say, I am inspired by them and envious. This is a short one. Lucky ducks. Nowhere for them to be but here on their nest of water, hatching the same old truth that lies between their hearts and their pond. Nowhere to be but here, far from the long nights, the crude fields and the hard-won seeds, here upon the bright, dark water, into the late sun-filled afternoons, outliving their fortunes and themselves. Next up, sloth. Now, there's something really endearing about sloths. Something about that permanent smug grin of theirs that says, don't pity or belittle my slowness. I know many things that you will never know. Besides that, they look like they're wearing one of those leather aviator caps, you know, that the daredevil barnstormers wore back in the 1920s. But what I find most striking is how the upper half of their bodies, to my eye, resembles our arms and our torso. Sloth. Once a week, sloths descend to the forest floor to relieve themselves. Nearly blind, they sometimes lose their bearings and end up traversing a hot, tarred road. A prone, purgatorial, hour-long slog. Reach by stretch with arms like ours, they inch and lug that bungled caboose of their lower body across the noxious road. Otherwise, they mind their arboreal business, masticating leathery leaves, snoozing when and where they please, their torpid bodies hammocked and camouflaged in the forest's attic. Because they are sluggish, a naturalist named them sloths, as in the deadly sin of despair, laziness, and omission. But they, They are none of that. They smell of trees, of bark and dew, sunlight and rain, sanctuary and shade. Algae and moth live in their fur, and in their scat, moth eggs hatch, flourish, and fledge. It is said that even after death, a sloth clings to its host tree, listening to the trees, to ring, listening to the trees' rings to ring all the more. Earthworms. This needs no introduction. Coiled all winter where we bury our dead, the lowly keepers and plowers rest, deaf and blind to our world in love with hate. Awakened each spring, they come in peace, their scat pure gold while we sabotage ourselves, our flicker of a soul nicked and scarred, though we wish we could sing the silent hymns of those who brighten the earth's dark rooms. Oh, let us laud these nimble movers who remind us of our summers long ago when they flailed in our small soiled palms with such tender terror as though they knew us. Next up, gooey ducks of Puget Sound. Now, perhaps some of you have never heard of these clams, or you will look them up afterwards. They are the world's largest burrowing clam and the longest living animal on Earth, with a typical lifespan of 140 years. The record breaker lived to be 179 years. They are native to the western coast of the United States from Alaska to Baja California. Now, their name, gooey duck, is misleading. So they are neither gooey nor ducks. This is an Americanized version of their Indian Nisqually name, which means dig deep. These huge clams are delicacy, sweet, briny, and slightly crunchy. They are best served with a squeeze of lemon and a dash of olive oil. Gooey ducks of Puget Sound. Swaddled in a generous yard of tidal muck, the world's largest clam outlives all of us. But when it baptizes the gray sand beach with its watery waste, the gooey duck is all prey. It's thick as a Hoover hose neck, a dead giveaway for hungry hunters whose muscular arms grip, wrestle, coax, and evict the foot-long phallic siphon from its Triassic piece. Post-siege, the hunters often pose with the huge uncircumcised penis as if it were their own. Its deeply private life now, food for thought, end table. The founding shell cleaved, the Modigliani neck blanched, the viscous membrane shorn, the neck thinly sliced into luminous wafers. Diners like myself swoon with eyes shut to spark that once upon a time sweet, sublime rhyme of ourselves, when our primal bodies were a simple two-way affair. One lane, a downstream river of riches, the other, a sluice of useful waste. Our only home, a single room of the world's finest glacial grist. Our dark days, one long happy night, anchored and solitary for a century or more, with a foggy, foggish sense of being harbored, held, and somehow rocked here, where our blindness began. Egrets. This is a simple 8-line sort of sidebar grace note public poem commissioned by the Westport Arts Advisory Committee to accompany an exquisite egret sculpture created by Reading artist Babette Bloch, spelled B-L-O-C-H, and you might want to Google her. You want to take a look at this sculpture. And it will be installed shortly in one of Westport's small parks. Egrets. All summer egrets post themselves on the sounds, marshes, and shoals. From shore we watch them pray and wait for their luck to shimmer. Nothing rivals their stainless plumage, patience, and grace. Hollow-boned and timeless, look how they feather that shore beyond us. Barb, the cheerleader. Okay. All right, we're leaving the animal kingdom. I will read 3 more poems. 2 of them are set in Vermont. That's called Gravity. I will read that first. And that was a reaction or rebuttal to like the stultifying beauty and serenity of Vermont. I lived there for like 6 or 7 years. I loved it. I still love it. But sometimes you want to shake things up. So I wrote this poem sort of about that. Gravity. For years, the old brick grammar school crouched on its haunches, unassailable as a sphinx. Then one day, without warning, something stupendous yanked the school out of the ground, clean as a weed, held it high and rattled it hard like a piggy bank. Every last teacher, bubbly, austere, or stale, pelted the playground below like pennies. The students were never seen again. Over the years, their pencils, scuffed shoes, and computations fell from the sky as they, harnessed to the papery stars of their own making, drifted farther and closer to the wide open heart of just about nothing. And yes, they were cold and scared without their coats and hats and mothers. But there were no rules or desks bolted to floors, and all the time in the world to lose and waste at their hooky pond, light years from school, frisking and diving in its clean, cold water that lapped and swallowed their extravagant bodies, while the day itself seemed somehow somewhere else. This is about apple picking. Ample apples. When the dead were alive, they liked to drive by the orchard in autumn and admire the pickers from afar, their wholesome appetites, their good-natured greed, the sweet tart fruit tumbling out of their baskets. The dead assumed that one day they too would hand-pick apples and bake a pie that would flood their lives with a buttery cloud of cinnamon and sugar, that they would share the pie and eat it warm with ice cream or a wedge of sharp Vermont cheddar. But when at last that October afternoon arrived, the dead lugged what was left of their bodies into the orchard. Beneath the trees, windfalls waited, with names like Victory, Ambrosia, and Smitten, there for the taking and perfectly good for baking, while above them, proud, ample apples hung like worlds, worlds they could no longer choose or eat like fruit. And lastly, shelf life. This poem is about the very specific odor of old books. I have always liked it, and it turns out, and I did find a poll online that 90% of people also like it. Shelf life. Old books smell earthy and deserted, like that lone potato hunched in the bin. They smell like a damp cellar in April. Riverbed rocks, dusk, and ratty dried roses. And yet, when their musk shrouds a room, many of us inhale it like something freshly baked. How is it that this staleness appeals? Something about the marriage of paper and print, our confidence in their spines and threads, their hidden glue hardened like ancient honey, or our years of holding them and them us with their righteous truths and whopping feats, how we wander down their silent, snowbound streets, the lifeless tundra eyeing us in the distance. So when their moss and shadow swamp us in an attic or smolder on a shelf, It's instinctive. We flip them open for a gust of their heft, pulling in the solitude of their bone-sad sweetness, their little tease and our little taste of their years of night without us. Thank you.
Wonderful, Donna. Such a amazing language. I've always said that about your work, but really just everything from windfalls weighted to glacial grist, just gorgeous language. So thank you. And thank you for the uplifting poems. So good. All right. So next we have Melissa Buckheit. Melissa is a poet and translator, activist, and dancer choreographer, a real mixture of things. It's wonderful. You'll find more in her bio, by the way, in the chat. She's the author of Noctilucent and 2 chapbooks. Her poems, translations, essays, and reviews have appeared widely. She founded and curates the EDGE, an interdisciplinary reading and performance series. Melissa is currently a graduate student in Irish Studies and English at Boston College. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you, Barb. So I'm just going to read about 5 or 6 poems, and just this little space where my poems appear is just dedicated to thinking about any beings in this moment who are just trying to find space to breathe in this country and around the world. Suffering. This isn't the answer. The answer is my hand on the table saying what we thought privacy was, on your forehead cupping the temple where the fine hairs begin. What origin begins with hair, the tenderest movement out, ends with bodies lining graves, an inability to pronounce the phonemes of your now foreign language. The language itself an answer. The woman isn't answering the phone. The woman isn't answering anyone. The woman isn't. The woman is chemically altering from the moment she is ignited. The woman is a girl, my palm across your temple, your eyes which follow me as I remove it. Tied to a tree isn't the answer. Tied to the back of a truck isn't the answer as it moves over miles. Isn't the cold hospital room. Isn't you're not my daughter anymore and you'll never be my son. This answer is evolving. This poem isn't recall to me the names inscribed on sheets. Almost, almost. Your palm as it cups my temple. Covering the left eye, the language itself. This isn't a wave as it takes a whole island, then buries the island beneath the island. Free agency. I always wanted to be an airplane when I grew up. I mean, I always wanted to fly, to be like a star with blue and red lights high in the low-lying atmosphere, a full cylinder of oxygen, 176 tons of jet fuel, and double combustion engines. Is American, isn't it? Yesterday was Independence Day, more fireworks or bombs. 3 silent planes have passed through the sky, visible from my front yard in the last 20 minutes. They're little American flags. Up there you can see from coast to coast, from one glaring shore to another dark, silent one, like seeing Russia from Alaska. It's all in your mind, how you tell it, like prison without due process, like prison is freedom, like a prison walking the streets doing nothing, like prison is a state of mind. Remember, on an airplane you're free. It's not a bad way to die, above or below. You can see the graveyards or ruins, the metropolis turned down low. Once you leave, you really are free. Each espresso served in a white ceramic airline cup and saucer is perfect, followed by 5 courses, all at 5,000 feet over the Atlantic. I've been there and it was wonderful. I sighed, I was alive. When I returned over the Atlantic, I dropped back into America like a spitball, the kind 5th grade boys shot through milk straws to dry on any surface like glue. That weight. I was laid over, of course. I've been delayed, but I am here. It isn't a bad way to die, above or below, like falling into heaven. To be a plane on loop over the ocean with nothing to catch you. JFK to Munich, Heathrow to Boston, Tampa to Stansted. You can just fall asleep for a moment into this dream. America, don't wake up. It's beautiful and a lie we keep telling ourselves. I'm in the cockpit. I imagine there's no one behind me, no living bodies on this plane. There's just music and the porn, and it looks good. Slight change of register. So I'm on an iPad here. Human evolution. So it begins again, this memory. A gas from protoplasm into daylight. The emptiness we imagined beyond is not that far or near. The emptiness, me or you, skin or bone, tongue, tail, hide. The tide was the first before us, unknown land in water, emptiness, obliteration, fear, our consuming senses, then sky. We think we are perfect. We are not. Perhaps we ask too much. Little animals, tooth and claw, lucky, short-sighted, we cry. Still, hand in hand, we traverse it. Don't forget the creep across land in the failing light, the small stillness of wind. Oh, remember how new still, how a birth, the blood and wet crowning us, a trembling of sex or touch, the first our hearts gave sway to another. On the horizon to see, grasses first, then trees. Home. Datura. And datura is a flower that blooms in the desert at night. So it's useful information for the poem. A flower not diurnal, almost poisonous, vivid in the half-dark of opposing particles. A cushion with the light behind it, your silhouette below my limbs as sleep breaks away. I call you to the corner of the room where the shelf of sea begins, midair. This is a little series of short poems called demotics. It's got kind of a bit of embedded language, so you can follow the music if it helps. Quanta surpassed by penumbra. Driven mad the sea, its repeated horizon steering straight down the canyon, coral reef, Sanita who blooms at night, monitor of. Acatillo curvature. Where have you gone? My memory is an emission, photograph, rapid ball of light, her skull lasting. A yellow glow of sodium means atoms are relaxing. The jackrabbit allows a fear of sand. In bedtime is transferable and small, could become a tremor, a length of cloud with another. Jelly-like the pelvis appears among deep sea vents, combing the water for our symbolon. Conifer and magnolia consume before desiccation in a mud bed, cousin to the diatom are dimorphic. We all live at the river, the moon reduces to tides. Dune field to which we may attach a quay, oscillation for boat, or the deserts. All indivisible energy exists. Raga, minimal amount of music cut up to its ecliptic pleasure as the neutrino constantly flies through my flesh, rearrange, surrender. Pheromone, the honeybee signals danger from a kiss after fight or flight, my anabasis. Kelp forests and olive green limpets, petrol, pelagic, statol, lipstick, pixie, fairy puke, night, aquafire. Water is why the epiphytes or guest plant paints chartreuse over stones, cedar, handrails. I hold on for dear life, marriage. the rarer just offshore arroyo, as Paraloon swallow sea level, sock eyeless salmon dead or diverted in sleep. What you don't know, quiet underneath, too wet for trees, fungi, people, epiphyte, keep my sexless sex safe. Humans hate darkness. To inspire people about the deep ocean, we had to light it, was a boundary. As he shut off the lamp, blurred my flagellum. And just two more. Eppies. The first moment I slipped inside, we were born. Hand who shines and shines, reflecting your your soul a vine, hurting cosmic string. Shyest delight, shyest fire obliterates. Always sleep in the sleeve of my collarbone. When you speak poetry's rise. Sappho knew your name. 200 stars, all nameless evenings. Call me with the knife of your tongue, flower. No snake, but one tended in the temple, baby again named, in the forest, the fruit of your nipples, Eve remembers. Just finding my page. I'm just going to end with a prose poem. And this is something that actually happened. Baptismal record. I was submerged. The sea came and took me, a green wave like a tongue, a curl consummated with foam, endless as a ribbon, green glass and its power waking. It wanted me. It longed to hold me one more time. It leapt up to me where I stood alone in the brown speckled sand. A curl of water from the endless batten line of the sea wall immersed me to the knees, then the waist, 4, 5 times. Seabirds were far in the distance. Where I reached into the bag for the thick brown gray ash and bone, which was heavy exactly like a body in its weight, and immensely cold as the dead are. I withdrew palmfuls which blew as I let them drop into the wake, altering to a beautiful cream in the green wave, the exact shade of sand in the desert and its pale green plants. Palo Verde and saguaro, petite mesquite and creosote, thin ocotillo meeting the floor of what was once the sea, now bare for the eye to see. Such intimate plants, breaching at the edge of mountain ranges, both pale and brown blue, whose mystery is the unexplained and unexplored, remnants of the past half embedded in dirt, empty air and silence, so sovereign it is a portal outside of time. That time may be lost or traversed. Walk it and it may loop anywhere. You may arrive nowhere except this horizon that continues and contains only what is original to it. It is the same view, the same path, and to sleep on the desert or ocean floor is to be cradled by the origin of life, protoplasm and Milky Way churning above. When I was a child, I had a poster on my wall bought at a book fair, drawn from the perspective of a peak of a low-lying mountain where the viewer gazes off into the horizon onto what was a flat valley below, hundreds of miles into the distance. The sky was bright, it's still a pale gray-purple blue, flocked by fog-fogged clouds, and a single figure stood alone on a sister peak, peering out from a green outcropping of rock. How I loved this view. I would stare at it for hours. It is the same view I had of the West from a tall point of a desert monument the first time I came to Arizona, or the first time I saw Ireland from the top of a peak. Later, I'd hike it alone both places in order to sit and gaze off into that distance from an elevated field We have both views, ocean floor to mountain and height to valley horizon. I dropped her in hand by hand, and the crests, mottled with her pulverized bone, seemed to baptize me as her spirit flew and moved with all the force of creation and her love into the waves, so enormous that they had nearly knocked me down, and I had to steady myself. The water reached for me as if she had the temporary power to control a natural force, and she wished to touch me a last time. I sunk in the pooling sand, submerged to the waist. Okay, Mom, I hear you. I hear you. I'm here, I said and said again as her body curled and sluiced over my own legs and she went out to sea. I could feel her as I could when I saw her laid out a last time before she was cremated. There was happiness. In Conversation is a beautiful place on Jones Beach on Long Island, New York. She was happy as a young woman. I wanted to walk directly into the Atlantic to meet her, even in the cool of late September. It was too powerful, so I watched. The sky and endless green seawall oscillated in the frame of the horizon. Think of the body of your mother, her fingers and eyes, her mouth and bones, free like the valley is green with the abundance of what is original to earth. Think of her voice and the place where she once stood. I hear her silence. She is someplace else and also here on earth, never lost, nature with original energy. Thank you.
Wow. Amazing imagery. And as someone said in the chat, just hypnotic reading. You do a wonderful job when you read your work.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's been many years of doing it. That's all I can account for.
Oh, boy. Wonderful. Thank you again.
Thanks again.
Okay. Next up, we have Joan Kunsch. Joan's book, Playing with Gravity, was followed by a CD of readings from the book. Her poetry has twice been awarded the Atlanta Review's International Publication Prize and once its International Merit Award. Her poetry, translations, and articles have appeared widely. Joan's artistic home these days, and for a while, is the Nutmeg Ballet Conservatory in Torrington, where she is a classical ballet instructor and choreographer and about to teach overseas. Did you tell us, Joan?
Yes, I'm going to be teaching in Estonia.
Wow. Wow. Well, welcome.
Fifth time. Thank you so much, everyone connected with organizing this wonderful event. I would like to begin with 5 very short poems written about 1 month apart, beginning with this past November. First one. If roses had blood, that is the color splashed on Earth's purple cloud cloak, autumn sunrise. There is always one day in December when the sky is thinking about beaches. The blue out there is softer. Thready edges of cotton clouds are softer too. On a day when, if you are not near a priest or a rabbi, a cloud will surely bless you. Third, I can't do it. Third one. Snow, my godmother. Blizzard, my muse. Language, my lover. Motion, my spouse. Fourth one. What to bring. For serene travel, carry little, contain much. When bodies are light enough to be wherever thought moves them, carry nothing, contain all. The fifth one. Soon, if not already, all of our children can fly. Landing, they whisper to us, holy electricity. The next one, Washington, D.C. city bus. Storm clouds churn overhead like an upside-down crumb cake. D.C. bus route threads through darkening streets. Too edgy to read, I stare at the book cover in my lap, Modern French Poets. Down and out of the blue, a rumpled man leans across the aisle, sees the title, and asks, Marcel Proust and André Gide, they wrote prose and not poetry, right? His long red beard is thick with curls, a hint of elegance, though his shoes don't seem to match. I start to reply, but already he's ringing to get off. He trudges a few steps in the rain, bulky and bewildered, then turns and looks back, as if to realize that once, long ago, he had, does he remember what? And could it ever return to him? Green light. My bus pulls away. The next is from the ballet studio, at the largest studio at the conservatory. It was a rehearsal of a pas de deux, a boy and a girl, and there was a monarch butterfly watching in the floor to ceiling window. Monarch at the ballet. Duet rehearsal. Zigzag of playful partners through shafts of light from a wall of windows. A caprice of lifts and landings. Wing-like, a skirt flutters. Outside, a monarch butterfly flings itself again and again toward the dancers, like rows of tiny kisses up and down the glass, drawn to mingle with movement so like its own. Kisses become collisions, and the insect drops to a ledge, trembling but still facing the dancers. Inside, two energies blend and blaze, while outside, two wings slowly fold and barely move now with the breeze. Eye to eye, inches apart, the monarch and I gaze at each other through the glass. I miss the end of the dance, wanting the insect's last sight to be compassion in a fellow creature's face. The next is a sonnet, which I wrote for the two pianists at the Hotchkiss School in Lakeville, Connecticut. They are internationally known pianists. They play in all the Oriental capitals. They judge international piano competitions, and we are very fortunate to have them in Connecticut. A sonnet for Giselle and Fabio Witkowski. The Fazioli grand piano stands in gleaming majesty at center stage, awaiting for true virtuoso hands, its resonant full power to engage. The lights grow dim, the audience is hushed. A pause, and now two pianists appear, with eager strides, yet never seeming rushed, about to lift us to another sphere. You've lost your hold on us, friend gravity. Caress of keyboard turns to strikes of lightning. A theme with wing-beat rhythms sets us free, the scope of human jubilation heightening. Applause does end, but still we feel rebirth. We step outside. It's Friday night on Earth. Once in Torrington, I simply stood and took dictation from a mockingbird. This was in the middle of Center Cemetery. And it really happened, and this is what I thought the mockingbird was saying. So the poem is called Mockingbird the Rapper, and the directions to the reader, each verse to be read aloud at top speed without taking a second breath. I don't think I can do that but that's what I was asking for. You notice I can't read this while I'm sitting down. So Mockingbird the Rapper. It's nifty, it's nifty, it's nifty, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, to sit prettily, sit prettily, chipper and perky, chipper, chipper, and perky, effusive and talkative, theory, dearie, spidery pillow, spidery, zip, petrified pottery, utter veracity, felicity, tipsy and tottery, robbery, brigade, robbery, give it back. Hyper gregarious, hyper gregarious, punch in the bowl, punch, bring in the bunch, bring it. Choose it and chew it, pottery, chow, choose it and chew it. Berry, shoo. Precious dilemma, precious dilemma, help. Mannequin there, mannequin, out of sight, fly. Really remember me, really, fly, out of sight, fly, bye. Okay. I have a prop for the next one. This is a knife sharpener, a manual knife sharpener. It has little wheels, and you draw the blade of the knife in between the wheels, and the knife is supposed to come out sharper. And it has a shiny, beautifully polished wooden handle, and the top part, the business end, is very shiny as well. And the poem I wrote, which is called Manual Blade Sharpener, is an attempt to give human thoughts and emotions to an inanimate object. So this is what it looks like, if everybody can see. So let's say you're passing through your kitchen and something unexpected happens, something you can hear. And this is what you hear. Can you spare a minute? You look to be in a rush, but you're a little curious, right? You were just passing by, checking today's appointments on your phone. You didn't expect me to start talking to you, but you saw the sheen of my bodysuit. And then you heard a low, gnawing hum, a voice. My voice. If you'd stay around another minute or two, that would be nice. Here on the shelf, there's not much intelligent conversation to be had. Just those stupid spoons and flippant forks with their monotonous up and down conveyor routine. What do they know? Only texture and temperature and whether their burden is tender or tough. But those knaves, my housemate calls them knives. They conquer steaks, sink into chops, carve turkeys, and they're so good looking. When I see them nearby, a jingle of my ringlets gets them lined up to dance with me. To flirt just a bit, I reveal one smooth, shapely, and very tanned leg. And after dancing with me, they are edgier, more popular, and even much sharper than before. However, I must confess to having a wounded ego problem. My housemate had wanted a whetstone. I'm the second choice substitute. Always watched and judged. My performance constantly sized up in comparison to that rival tool. You see, despite my hard, shiny exterior, I am very sensitive and my feelings are easily hurt. But maybe you'll stop by soon again. By the way, my name is Bettina. Text me sometime, won't you? And one more. This poem is a tribute to each one of you online. It is something about in each city a poet. So it's for all of you and how much respect I have for the voices that are around me in Connecticut. Even if I don't see all of you in person, I sense your energy, and my life is made richer because you are here along with me. So it's called In Each City, a Poet. The one who responds to the wind in its own language, who resounds in the fortissimo of crashing waves, and whispers the treble tremolo of aspen leaves, whose violin voice plumbs the abyss left by departures of first loves, who ambles among gilded onion domes with grannies in remote villages, who grieves with the widowed doe and her fatherless fawn, equally agile among abbeys and addicts, inexhaustible in praise as the chant of waterfalls. It is the poet whose appetite consumes comets, whose sentences wind their way through forests of birch and spruce, who probes the dreams of grass, and who, facing upward each morning, expects a kiss from the invisible. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Joan. Oh, that Mockingbird poem was just to die for. And also, remember when you're traveling, carry little, contain much, or carry nothing, contain all.
And all is a capital A.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you so
again.
much for the
Wonderful.
opportunity.
Oh. All right. So next we have a poet you may know, John Popolaski, sorry. John Popolaski has worked as a mover, lackey to a well-heeled tropical biologist, tent erector, lobsterman, and teacher, and also a poet. His newest poetry collection, That Special Something, is forthcoming in June. His previous poetry collections include A Brief Eureka for the Alchemists of Peace and Contemporary Martyrdom. John has poems forthcoming in Canary, Common Ground Review, and Public School Poetry. So please welcome John Popolaski. Hi, John.
Hi, thank you. I don't know if this is going to work, but hang on one second. Hey, I don't think I can share it. Can you see that or no? Never mind, I can't share. It was going to be a picture of a Delta smelt, but I can't show it. So anyway, the title of this poem is Delta Smelt. Picking on a small fish from afar is almost all I need to know about the quality of his interior. The female bishop mentioned mercy in the National Cathedral. He looked elsewhere, anywhere, unsettled in a Gothic house of God. I lived across Wisconsin Avenue from there, from 91 to 92, on Woodley in the basement of a big house. I was free to use the living room and kitchen on the main floor, free to mingle with the women who had bedrooms on the second. New Year's Eve, alone, stretched out at leisure on the couch, I read Studs Lonigan and didn't care about the time, the widespread celebration. I moved out the year before the Delta smelt was listed as a threatened species. I moved out because a basement can do things you don't want to your estimation of your station in the system, even if you only dream of writing poems for an audience of dozens. I don't think he's dwelled in basements much, but something happened to him somewhere, and it isn't fair that Delta smelt, indigenous, involuntary sentinels, endangered almost to extinction now, should be demeaned as worthless by a charlatan who can't swim and has never cared about a Delta's wellness in his life. If I was tech savvy enough to post a picture, I would now post a picture of Billy Collins, who most of you probably know what he looks like anyway. This poem is called The Age of Anxiety. At a time that isn't set to any standard that I know of, you begin to think about your organs more, the metabolic fine points, the components of your blood. The time may come because a throb emerges like a fog light, or a number has returned too far outside the normal range. You do the math or try recapturing what may be in your power to recapture, or ask why what you believe to be a sizable reserve of equanimity is dry. But then, as happens now, a flag of no land flutters by the window as you sprinkle hemp hearts on your oatmeal, as you stir 2 tablespoons of peanut butter in. It troubles you that all the mass of your kind outweighs all the mass of all the wild animals on earth by 10 times, even though there is a little solace to be had in knowing that for every human there's 1,000 pounds of termites somewhere. You are grateful for the ottoman that holds your covered legs up as you bring each spoonful to your lips and tell yourself the forethought you have marshaled in the interest of nutrition must mean you have not abandoned hope. But you can't tell yourself abandonment is not an option any longer since you've heard that Billy Collins moved to Florida. If you don't know, he mostly used to live in New York. This next one is for a guy named Henry Taylor, who was a poet who died back in October. And if I had a picture of him, he would be clean shaven, which you'll see the relevance of that in a bit. So this one is called Another Message from Porlock, number 2. As I put this pen to paper, AI cannot possibly know that once I sat beside the poet Henry Taylor in his tiny office, casual, and asked him why a poem he'd composed about a poetry reading, whose spell was rudely interrupted by clanging pipes inside the walls, was called Another Message from Porlock. Henry had a memory. Without pause, he answered, here the concubla commanded a palace to be built, and a stately garden thereunto. And thus 10 miles of fertile garden were enclosed with a wall. We were clean shaven then. He smirked, an intellect beyond me, and explained that Coleridge had dreamed a long poem, 200, 300 lines at least, and that the poem was still with him when he woke and started writing. But a person on business from Porlock called him out, detained him for above an hour, broke the spell, and all but 8 or 10 lines, shadow fragments of the vision, were returned. Henry then recited the entirety of Kubla Khan, as though he knew a little something of the dreaminess of opium, and didn't stop when someone from the District of Columbia knocked on his door, oblivious to the mechanics of intrusion. This is another one for Henry, and it's called Tutelage, and more or less takes place in that same office. I don't remember how two people occupying different social planes and timeline waypoints, separated by about the average lifespan of a quarter horse, got on the subject in that tiny office off Nebraska Avenue Northwest. I must have asked him how he was, and honoring of etiquette, I would have understood he should reply to, with the deeply personal stuff redacted, so that I could then be asked how I was, and reply with my polite redactions, fine, or good, or not bad, not bad. But this man who had two children almost my age, and a wife, an old home on a mown hill in horse country, and a major literary prize attached forever to his name, confessed to me, a person 6 years out of high school and in love still with Bukowski, that he was depressed. Depressed. It may have been the plushness of the cushion I was sitting on that made me say what I said next. Or maybe it was just that I knew less about the psyche than the A I got that one semester in psychology let on. But I said, just snap out of it. Let's get a drink. A moment passed, and I believe that Henry's elevated chin implied that he was thinking I was wise in my forthrightness and simplicity and youth, and that he was considering our options for that drink. I do not have his memory, but I remember clearly that he said, when I wake up and put my feet down on the floor, I sit on the edge of my bed and it is like I'm looking into the abyss. I know it isn't rational. I know it makes no sense, but knowing doesn't make a difference. I don't remember anything else about that conversation or that day. I'm older now than he was then. I wonder, now that all is said and done, why he decided, after motoring around the country for a while, to retire with his final wife in Santa Fe. And if you don't know, today is Ash Wednesday, and if I could have mastered this sharing technology, I would have posted a picture of a goat that headbutted my old dog one time when I was up at my friend's house in Maine. So this poem is called Drifting from the Faith. The black cross that a thumb smudged on my forehead on a Wednesday drew stares in the world, but no derision, no suggestion of uncleanness. It told everyone I'd made a vow to give a dear thing up for 40 days because I didn't think I'd make it that long in the desert on my own. I wouldn't have objected to an eye roll here and there. The text is adamant about not practicing your piety in order to be seen. And what's a black cross smack dab in the middle of your forehead but a plea for one's attention as you pass? The season and the ritual keep me coming back each year. The weirdness of the marking and the going forth, as though I were the poor goat on whose head the annual accumulation of the village's impurities and sins was put. The goat who smelled the blood and burnt flesh of the offerings as he was led out to the desert, left there, separate from the village nonsense, wondering in goat terms, what now? And the last one is, if you're not familiar with the Greek word xenia, it just means hospitality, which is going to come up towards the end here. And this one is called On the Seemingly Increasing Number of the Inhospitable in This Dimension. It has become so trying to believe the person in your presence is a god, whom you subscribe to and is in disguise to test your kindness toward the homeless, or to teach you something elementary about the prophecies before he gives you all the proof you'll ever need. How comforting it must have been to sit down with a stranger at your table in Emmaus and be gobsmacked, doubtless, right back to Jerusalem. What if this evening you were old and poor and vulnerable to a sensational demise, and two men of the peasantry, rejected by your countrymen, knock softly on your door and ask you and your partner in this life if it is in your hearts to spare for just this night some floor space on which they might curl themselves to sleep? If we're being honest, you deny them also, offering a curt apology perhaps, but closing on them the impartial door, considering the many ways that you were good, and rationalizing that such xenia, if it was ever practiced, isn't safe to practice now. Let's say you are unusual and let them in. Allow them to get clean and feed them. Pour them wine that you were saving for yourselves. And notice each time you return to the carafe that it's as full as ever, as it was from the beginning. Would that be enough to offer up your guard goose or your ancient dog to these two, whom the wine trick gave away? When they reward your xenia by warning you to get to higher ground before the flood, would you tip off the others, giving them a chance, more time to be a better version of themselves? Or would you, as you watch them flail and gurgle, say they had their chance already, fair and square, and squandered it, which makes them people it's okay to wash your hands of, after all? And that's all I have. Thanks.
Wow. Good one. Good reading. You have a wonderful voice. Are most of these poems in your collection that's coming out in June, John?
Only one.
Only
All
one.
these are, except for that one, is are newer ones.
Wonderful. Really, I love the scapegoat poem. Really
Thanks.
wonderful. Thank you. Okay, our last reader for this evening, and I'm sorry we're getting to you so late, Michael, but next up we have Michael Chief Peterson, who is a motivational speaker and poet. He not only speaks about social inequities and individual struggle, but he acts to change the cycle as a dean of students at his alma mater, New Britain High School. Appointed the inaugural poet of New Britain, Chief is a three-time Connecticut spoken word Grand Slam champion. He is the playwright of and actor in his one-man show, I Wish Life Had Training Wheels. So please welcome Michael Chief Peterson. Hi, Michael.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, it's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Salute to everyone here and everyone who read. It really makes me want to push my pen even more listening to you all. So I'm just happy to be a part of the unit. I'm going to read a couple pieces out of my new and first release of poetry. My book titled Poetic Therapy is out now on Amazon and all of the above. I'm super excited about it. It's my first release, so here we go. I figured since I know some of you and some of you may know me, for those of you who don't, I would start by introducing myself. A piece titled Who Am I? Who am I? My birth name is Michael. It means he who is like God. So there's a hint of heaven in every word I write. Therefore, we shall all be blessed tonight. Amen? But who am I? With one brother in corrections and the other in a casket, I am my mama's only child. I am the only child my father didn't raise. Pen, pencil, and a page have been more of a parent than Papa, but let the stone roll where it may. Real life irony. My father's last name is Roll. Yet who am I? I am a masterpiece in the making. I'm a poet, so I can bend words and say things like, I'm extrovertedly introverted, which means I can be the life of the party or just not go to it. I'm an alcoholic who's never been drunk a day in my life. I get punch drunk off punchlines, so hit me with your best verse and not shot because black men don't come back from those. I am an unprepared eulogy at my brother's funeral. I am still living with that regret. I am last month's rent with next week's check. I am Ricky and Bobby, first and last. I am the haves and have-nots. I am made it home safe from the traffic stop, but still hashtag waiting to happen. I am can't kneel or stand for my rights. I am hands up and polite and still knee on neck or bullet in back. I am both miracle and menace. Some say it's a life sentence in this skin. I say it's a win. My melanin be sliced bread and pants with pockets, the best thing since been. But my mama named me Michael Germain. You only know me as my AKA, and this is the part where I hit you with a gun bar, but with one brother gunned and the other one barred, I've learned to stay away from them both. I am the truth in a world full of lies. I am Big Mama's eyes and Granddaddy's nose. I am the generational curse and gift. I am a combination of lift every voice and sing. And in the words of Crime Mob, as quoted by urban Negro philosopher Charlemagne the God, I am always ready to knuck if they buck. I am LL Cool J's I Need Love and Mama Said Knock You Out. I am Martin's Dream and Malcolm's By Any Means. I am Paradox and Oxymoron. You know, kind of like the hate they give LeBron, but the love they give R. Kelly. I am what comes from the belly of the beast. I am the beast and the beauty within him. I am as good as it gets, but not good enough. I am confidence cloaked in insecurity, but I'm alive to tell my story. My head high, my smile is full, and my mama's still proud of me. I'm winning. I am the win within the loss. I am the beginning and the end, still writing the chapters in the middle. I am the shoe on the wrong foot, but step in the right direction. I am the broken mirror for little black boys to see their reflection. I am the dream they see from the windowsill in the projects. I am the project from the projects projected not to make it. I am the one in the family who made it, yet still trying to make it. First to graduate college, but last to have a family. Hella macho and manly, but I cry damn near daily. I am the hell yeah, let's get it. And I don't know, maybe this is who I am. I'm still learning. I'm still learning to love me. I am learning. I am love. I am me. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I'm gonna take a break in between these poems to give you some haiku. So I'm really hoping all of us in here know what a haiku is. 17-syllable Japanese poem with lines of 5, 7, and 5. 17 syllables is all I get to give you something profound. I bet you didn't realize those last 4 lines were 17 syllables. Yep, that line was also 17 syllables, and so is this one. Is he about to speak to us in haiku the whole time? Yes, I am. 17 syllables. But mine won't be 575, but they will be 17 syllables. If you don't believe me, go ahead. You can count them if you want to. The plan is for me to use these haiku to make you think, feel, or laugh. Haiku number 1 is called American Education. Programs for students, but their teachers haven't healed from their own trauma. Haiku number 2 is titled My Own Mentor. Dad left. I taught myself to ride a bike. I wish life had training wheels. Haiku number 45 is called Blunts and Edibles. Thoughts after getting high. Do I work from home or do I live at work? Haiku number 31 is titled Typical Woman. Don't judge me, guys. She asked me a question. I answered her question. She questioned my answer. The next one is also out of my book. It is a piece near and dear to me, and it's called Hard Things. I have probably 6 different versions of this poem that I try to tell this story with, but here we are. It is There's a 7-year-old crying over a man she's never met, as if they held hands in an afterlife before her life even began. She remembers his birthday and asks to go see him. I watch her trace the letters of her name in his headstone. Mia, Julian. She is his namesake. Tears flow down my daughter's face. I give her the stiffest embrace I can muster. Right before we leave, she mantles her arms around this marble structure, giving it the most solid hug. This is the way she has learned to love. I come from a long line of men whose first love letter was a eulogy. From the era of stop crying before I give you something to cry about. From pick your head up and poke your chest out even when you're scared. From boy, you better man up. Black men has always been taught to be tough. Can't never let them see you sweat or cry. We were taught to hide the heavy, taught to be tough, hard, both inside and out, taught to never let what's inside out or vice versa. Stand firm, be statue. Sometimes that makes us hard to love. But when you're raised in a concrete jungle by a rolling stone, you have no choice but to be rock. The block was our home. No doorbell, just hard knocks, and it was hard not having a father. But my mother, a brick house. I inherited the cement in my veins, me and my brother. And the more rocks change, the more they stay the same. Hard. Us bricks don't fall far from the building. He was every bit of Twin Tower turned rubble. Every bit of hard head makes soft ass. Every bit of hard hat, private first class. Couldn't tell him he wasn't part adamantine. Not quite Wolverine, but an ex-man now. Couldn't withstand a storm of bullets to his chest. He was every bit of hard, just not Kevlar. Do you know how solid you have to be pillar and pallbearer? To have to lift him up only to let him down and still be foundation for the family? And still be be stable, be structure. Can't let them see these cracks. Growing up tight roping the fault lines of an earthquake, we prepare ourselves for the fall. It's bound to happen, so we grow to be hard. Most times, hard to love. But when you have brick in your bloodstream, you can't expect it not to affect your seeds. My baby girl got gravel in her genes. I don't want her yellow brick road paved in pain, so I place her between a heart and a hard place so she learns to love hard things and be just the kind of hard I need her to be. A gem. She's beautiful and shining, and when you put enough pressure on a rock, you make a diamond, and she's constantly reminding me of how black women, regardless of the situation, have always been able to love us. Hard. I used to avoid letting her see my scars and my tears. I was taught to be tough, to be strong, to protect and provide. Have you ever seen a rock cry? Then why would I show my daughter that? To her, I am every bit of mountain, and she loves me for all that I am, so I make sure she understands that contrary to what she hears, bricks and stones won't break your bones. They will love you, hug you, squeeze you, and raise you to be a diamond, and it's fine if you princess cut into your feelings and learn to love hard things. On Sundays, we go see her Uncle Julian. I watch her trace the letters of her name in his headstone. Right before we leave, she mantles her arms around this marble structure, giving it the most solid hug. Between her father, her rock, and her uncle, the tombstone. This is how she has learned to love. Hard. Got enough for 2 more? Awesome. Okay. This one is actually a recent piece. I had an event on Valentine's Day, and I didn't want it to be a traditional love poem, so I kind of tried to put a little twist to it. They say you should be careful when dating a poet, because one day you may become a poem, and that can be both a gift and a curse. There's a thin line between a love and hurt poem. In love, I can say, you are the blessing that makes God pray. I've read every book in the Bible, but you are the only scripture I understand. If there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, you are the magic on the other end. When God said, let there be light, he created your smile and then the sun. But if you hurt me, when God said, let there be light, he created the sun, took a day off, had a few drinks, and made you the following night. The only thing you have in common with the Bible is the B. You hurt me, I haiku you. No, I'm not bitter, I'm over you. I just hate everything you love. I'm guessing you'd rather be a love poem. You'd rather hear about how I begged Cupid to use cotton tip arrows so they don't pierce your beautiful skin. You rather hear about how your voice is a melody that calms oceans, like the first drop of rain on this thirsty earth. You are what pushes the rose through the concrete. But if you hurt me, you could be the thorn that prevents people from picking flowers in the first place. The eye of the storm, a category 5. The very core of you carries chaos and catastrophe. Your birth was a natural disaster. Your fairy tale ends with happily never after. As poets, we have the capacity to make a muse of your memory. We couldn't make it work, so we made it art. The audacity of us, huh? I assure you, we'd rather write you love letters than these hurtful hymns. But when dating a poet, you have to see the eggshells and know the ice is thin. You break our hearts, we grab our pens. It's how we heal. Trust me, all of us desire a love like the Notebook, but if we don't get it, we grab our notebooks and notate how much we hate love. And hate is a strong feeling, but love is a stronger emotion. Love allowed me to thread from my heartstrings and get to sew in this very jacket that I'm wearing. So now you know what they mean when they say we wear our hearts on our sleeves. Your love allows me to be seen in broad day, adoring you through the dark ink in my journal. I shower pages with cursive writing similar to EKG waves. You are proof that I am still alive and the reason why it's called a living document. I can see you, then leave, then use my pen to revisit the site and recite it on a silent night under the moonlight and hope that it echoes forever. Can you hear me now? Isn't it much better to be a love poem? Doesn't it feel good to hear words of affirmation versus defamation? There's a fine print in the application for dating a poet, and it reads, be careful, because one day they may write about you. And that could be both a gift and a curse. So if you're gonna date a poet, rid your heart of the hurt and make it a home. Your actions will dictate what we write in that poem. So if you're gonna date a poet, you better love us or leave us alone. Okay, so my last poem for the day. My last poem for the day will be, probably should have thought about this, huh? Heavy. I have a poem called Heavy, and I have to find it because it's in my book somewhere. Hold on, let me go back to the Heavy is on page 54. Got it. Okay. All right. I've been told that everything I write has this kind of heavy sense to it. And it made sense to me. When you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, the blessings and burden of family on your back, guilt in your heart, a combination of children, work, finances, and fear of being shot, all while being black, your pen becomes exactly that. Heavy. As a black man in America, it's difficult to keep a smile on our faces. We do it anyway. Sometimes carrying this skin is too heavy to bear. We do it anyway. They've only cared about our muscle, but our struggle has become our strength. But who do we lean on when things get tough for us? Because black men ain't taught to talk about it. My friends say I should write. The fellas say hit the weights. My family says pray. I've become the holy trinity of therapy for black men, a poet, a pastor, and personal trainer. Yet what I've learned about the slam, the gym, and the church are the pressures to be perfect and develop a praiseworthy body of work. I must get as close to the 10 as possible. That's the scores, the sets, and commandments, but get crucified if the disciples don't believe in my work or word. So I work with the weight of the words I put in these bars before they snap, because sometimes they're heavy, as in the hand that holds the pen, the man that carries a sin, the vein that joy and pain are in. Black men ain't taught to talk about it. My people say write, pray, or lift weights. Yet both the church and the gym come with books of judges depending upon how much is on the plate. People still in their Genesis think they can chronicle my revelations, but don't know what I keep in my Psalms, help me do numbers and make an exodus from these stressful acts of life. I'm preaching, y'all. I've worked hard to build this faith and this muscle and still have trouble pressing off the pressure. Oftentimes I curl up in my pew and shrug it off. I dip depression and push up prayers hoping God heard me. What goes up must come down, a burpee, leaving me standing there, hand shaking, heart racing, and sweating, second guessing if writing, prayer, or working out is working out. I lift prayer, push weights, and pen poems, hoping my bars are as hard as my arms so I can protect myself from the lies, scores, and stones you throw because black men ain't taught to talk about it. Judge when we do, judge when we write, judge when we lift, judge when we pray, judged if we cry. I wipe my tears with the same cloth I'm cut from. That's why my skin's so rough. When enough becomes enough, it's usually breakfast for us. Serve the plate of pain. Life often scrambled in over easy. Cup runneth over with stress. Too heavy for the table, so we hold that up too. The Bible says the meek shall inherit the earth, but what about the bevy of burdens that come with it? Black men ain't taught to talk about it. So my pen turned spotted to help me release this gift. But if this poem don't make you for resurrected, call it a dead lift. You welcome me to the church, the gym, and the slam. Say, come as I am. It's a judgment-free zone. It ain't about the points. It's about the poem. But I can't even write one without feeling judged. Oftentimes by myself. I ain't never been taught to talk about it. Just told to hide the heavy. We wear it so you don't have to. We carry it so you don't have to. In the name of the poet, the pastor, and personal trainer, we pray a man is strong enough to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, because ain't a scale that can measure that. The expectation is to gain faith, lose weight, and replace this pain with poetry. The pen has become my support beam. It keeps me upright, row, chin up, so the world can't see me frown. If a black man falls in the forest, does his trauma make a sound? Since the beginning of time, the black man has always had to pick things up, never realizing how much it weighs us down. We physically lose weight, but every day we put on pounds. But I've learned to acknowledge, accept, and respect the fact that heavy will always be the head that wears the crown. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you for your time.
Oh, wow. And we appreciate you for your poems. Beautiful work. Powerful work.
Thank you so much.
Just amazing. What a night, huh? Thank you, all of our poets, and thank you, audience, for staying with us. It's been a wonderful evening. Again, thank you, Lucy Hanley and the Ridgefield Library for being our host always. And I guess that's it. Hope to see you next month. Again, we have some great poets coming: Margaret Gibson, Ben Grossberg, Penelope Pelazan, Scott Fry, and Charles Rafferty. So have a good rest of your week, and see you next month, I hope.
See you guys. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.